Hey there, Ryan Kingslien. How to screw up a drawing, or a painting, or a sculpture, or a piece of music, or a dance performance. How do you screw that up? I'll tell you how I screw these things up. That's what this is really about. But I want you to think about something before I jump in there. What's one of the biggest ways I could screw up a painting or a sculpture? What about if I never created it to begin with? That might be probably the biggest way to screw up a painting, a sculpture, or a drawing. And that's something we have to remember when we start having, doubts about what we're doing or insecurities. The biggest way to screw up a drawing is to throw it away or just never start it to begin with. So what stops us? What stops you in your life from drawing every day? Of course, time is a problem, right? We have to manage time. We have to learn how to get control of our environment so it supports who we are, right? But what else? If you had perfectly managed time and you had an extra 2 hours of time every single day that you could work in, what would be stopping you then? What would prevent you from creating artwork? Well, you've already seen this, I'm sure, had some experience in your life of this, but I'll tell you a little bit of what stops me. One of the big things that really just stopped me cold in my tracks and really caused the death of so many drawings, so many sculptures, was my rules, was what I defined as my, this is artwork. Another way to say that is my expectations. Let's keep it real simple. My expectations just were really intense. For example, what is your rule for art? What does art have to be or do for you to consider it artwork? Like you go to a museum, we see everything. Impressionists, 19th century, we've got modern stuff. What does art have to be or do in order for you to see it as art? If you're like me, you tend towards realism, you tend towards wanting something to be figurative, right? Which is fine, that's going to be our taste. But still, there's a rule there. There's a really important rule. What is that? What I learned was that my rule for art is that it had to be created by the highest level craftsman at the highest state of joy. So, if that's my rule for art outside of me, it's most likely my rule for art inside as well, right? So how often do you think I'm operating at the highest level of craftsmanship and in a state of ecstatic joy while building a business and having a family with 2 beautiful, crazy monkeys splashing things everywhere and getting a house or dealing with living downtown Los Angeles, right? How often am I in a state of ecstatic joy? Probably not that much. Right? If you said not that much, you were right. Like probably never ecstatic joy, So when was I creating artwork? Never, ever, ever. I would go down a process and I would never be happy with it because it would never live up to my expectations. And we all know that. We all know expectations can kill something. They can just kill it dead in its tracks. But I want you to look further than just, this is my expectation. I want you to look at rules. What's the rule? So that you find exactly what it is, and then that way we can change that rule. So now, highest level craftsman. Okay, holy crap, right? I mean, because skill is just a trap. It's like commercialism to me. I mean, I believe you have to have skill. I've studied, spent 15 plus years. I believe in it. But it's also a little bit of commercialism. Okay, I gotta acquire the ability to draw hands. I gotta acquire the ability to draw faces. I gotta acquire the ability to draw a female face, a male face, a baby face. I gotta be able to draw antelope faces. I gotta be able to draw reindeer faces. I gotta be able to draw Santa's face. I gotta be able to draw feet and knees, and like there's all these things that you have to acquire. Like going down the aisle at Target, like, okay, we gotta get this, we gotta get that, we gotta buy this, we gotta buy that, I gotta buy this, gotta buy that. And then at the end of the day, you just got a shopping cart full of skills. But where are you going? You spend all your time buying stuff in the supermarket. I spent 15 years of my life and I never asked myself, where am I going? That's 15 years of my life in Target shopping and never going out and doing something? Where are we going with all of the skill that we have acquired through our life? If you're like me, you're going, I went nowhere. And eventually I hit a wall, boom, almost 4 years ago today. Just hit a wall, lost all my ability to create, all creativity just gone. I couldn't even put the creativity into my business. At least for the last 10 years before that, or 8 years before that, I was able to put it into ZBrush and put together really cool tutorials. But no, I hit a wall. I couldn't go any further. And I had to learn how to fix that. So how do you screw up a drawing? Well, you throw a bunch of expectations in there with all these rules. It has to be this, it has to be that, it has to be this. That will screw up a drawing. That'll screw up a sculpt. Okay? Those expectations are also on you. You have them of yourself. What do you have to do in order to be an artist? What's your definition of being an artist? You know mine. My definition of being an artist is the highest level craftsman. But what happens when you get to the top of a mountain? Don't you just see another mountain? When you get to the top of that mountain, you see another mountain? Like, you ever have that hiking trip where you're climbing up? You're just hiking up this hill, you go to the top of this hill and you're like, oh, shit. Okay, there's another one. Right? You're already tired. Now you gotta go down, you gotta go back up to another one. And you're like, okay, we're gonna be done as soon as we get there. You get there and you realize, no, the hot springs aren't there. The hot springs are on the other hill. They're on that side. And you got further to go. I'm sure you've had that experience. That's the highest level craftsman. If you're constantly trying to be the highest level craftsman, and that's your goal, you're never gonna get there. You're never gonna be able to draw that perfect circle. You're never going to be able to draw everything exactly the way you want it. If that's your goal, to be the highest level craftsman, which means you got to beat guys like Jacob Collins, right? Google that name if you don't know. And then once you've done that, you got to beat Raphael, but Raphael's dead, so you don't get to see all of his sucky drawings. But all of your drawings, you're going to see. It's a crazy thing, this process of being an artist. We don't really even understand it, you know? I talk a lot about the psychology of art and how this is not studied. The psychology of sports has like degree programs on the psychology of sports. And these are guys like bouncing balls, or they're grabbing balls, or throwing balls, or playing with balls. Like, there's degrees on playing with balls. Where does that make sense? When we're artists, and the only degree we get is a Master of Fine Arts, that's a guaranteed unemployment check. Pretty crazy. But we didn't do this for the money. You and I. We didn't do this for the money. I know it. You know, we did this because it's inside us. It's in our DNA. Our desire, our need to create. To change the world in some capacity. You know, here's a girl in some state of joy with her hands reaching up in the air. What is this all about? You know, why do we do this? I've got a baby floating in space behind me. I have no idea what he's doing. But I have a deep connection with that baby. I have a deep connection with this painting. We find ways to connect to stuff. And when we connect, that's when there starts to develop this bond, this life between us and the work. I remember I was talking to Richard McDonald, this just amazing figurative sculptor, and he has this beautiful sculpture which is in, I think, in Las Vegas in front of the O. It's this guy who's hanging upside down and his arms are stretched out, almost like a reverse crucifixion with the cloth kind of draped down and then going around in a spiral. And Richard was saying, you know, that he just kind of lost motivation. He was almost not going to finish this until one thing attracted his attention. One thing, just how the body behaved when it was upside down and how the internal organs had kind of just shifted so that you're actually able to see the spine and stuff like that. That was a trigger for this amazing artist who's literally changing, just has done so much for figurative work in the expressive potential and in the exposure to people, you know, who might buy some modernist piece instead. There's always a trigger right? We can find it, but we have to find it, because if we're going to unleash the artist inside of us, if we are going to do this and go down this journey and live as an artist and thrive as an artist, we got to find ways to connect with things so that we can spend the time, so that we can get through the struggles. Some people are fine, they're just going to be an artist and that's fine. I have to have a reason for things. So for me, I'm not just going to study anatomy anymore just for anatomy's sake. I want to have something to say. I want to say something, and then I'm going to bring my anatomy in, right? This is just me. I want to say something, then bring my anatomy in and make it work. The first thing I have to do is develop a connection, a love for these pieces. You know, and now I can feel it. I can feel it. I still, you know, I've got to figure out the anatomy in this area, right? So I've got to get my model in, but I don't need to wait for that. I can work because I have the tools, the strategies. I have the ways. Planes, create simple planes, for example, right? Treat this as a simple geometric shape. Keep things simple. These are tools, these are strategies that old masters have used, both to do their own work and to teach their pupils. And that's how we're going to not destroy a drawing. We're going to learn to love it. I know it's a little weird, but we're going to learn to love that piece. We're going to find that trigger that connects us with it. And when we've got that trigger, anything can come and we will handle it. Anything. We can move it and I will figure out that anatomy. I will make that work. I will get the model in. I will look through the reference. I will learn that piece of software because I now have something that I want to say, I want to do. So let's just go back to where we were at the beginning. How do you screw up a drawing? You just lose interest. Such a small thing, right? How do you screw up a drawing? You just lose interest. And once you've lost that interest and it's no longer connecting to you, it's done, it's gone. You're never going to fix it. Because is a drawing ever complete? Is a painting ever complete? When do you know something's complete? You got a whole gamut of answers on that. It's complete when it's never complete. It's complete when I'm dead. It's complete when it leaves the studio, right? Who knows when something's finished? But what we do know is as artists, as soon as we have lost interest in it, it's complete, it's done. But as long as we're connected to it, we will find a way to work through any problems in it. We will solve the anatomy, we will solve the form, we will redraw it, we will transpose it into a new sheet of paper, we will destroy that canvas and put it onto another canvas. We will find a way to make it work, even if it takes us years, if we're connected to the piece and if it connects to us. How do you screw up a drawing? You just become indifferent to it. What's the opposite of love? It's not hate. What's the opposite of love? If you hate something, you still have a connection to it. Love is that deep connection, right? This is a really great quote. What's the opposite of love? It's indifference. That's the opposite of love. How do you screw up a drawing, a painting, a sculpture? You become indifferent to it. Hate it. If you hate it, at least you're going to work on it. I hated this piece. This is a year ago. I got a trunk full of stuff over there I hate, and we're going to get to it. But anybody who's been in a long-term relationship knows love isn't the only part of that equation. There's a lot more stuff that happens. But it's all still awesome. And it still all falls under the umbrella of love and connection. That's my goal for you. So we're going to learn to unleash the artist inside of us and help that artist connect to things and build things and live in the arena and fight for what it wants. That's what we're doing in this program. It's a small group. Remember, usually my classes are like 300 people in there. This is going to be a very small group. Right now I'm thinking in the 20s or less. So really small. I'm going to be there to kind of connect with everybody, and we're going to be looking at work if you want to show work. We're going to be going through rules and various things in our psychology, and we're going to be learning to get in the arena, sculpting, painting, drawing, writing, dancing, composing, whatever it is that you do. We're going to learn how to keep doing that, how to get out of being stuck. So, sign up today. It's limited. I can't promise you it's going to stay open. Have a fantastic time, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.